Errors in electrochemistry during preparation. See, there are 11 errors in the preparation of the electrochemistry. So, how we can resolve these errors and how you can improve your result. Let's begin with the first one. In electrochemical cell, it is due to the spontaneous redox reaction. The electrochemical cell works due to the spontaneous redox reaction. Spontaneous means it takes place its own. Most of the students are not aware that the reaction involved here is a spontaneous redox reaction. Then, number two, that is about electrolytic cell. Electrolytic cell works because of the non-spontaneous redox reaction. Like we recharge our any device and we supplied external electric current to that and it works. So that is electrolytic cell. Oxidizing agent. The meaning of oxidizing agent is it oxidized others and reduced itself. So as per the reduction potential is concerned, the substance or an atom which oxidized others having higher or the positive reduction potential because they believe to reduce themselves and oxidized others. Reducing agent. Same way, like oxidizing agent, reducing agent means it reduced others and oxidized itself. So the elements or compound which act as reducing agent having lower or the negative reduction potential. Symbolic presentation. So when you talk about the oxidation potential, then make sure before the hyphen you have a neutral charged atom, and after the hyphen if it is a positive charge then it belongs to the oxidation potential. Same way, before the hyphen if you have a negative ion, and after the hyphen if it is a neutral atom, then it also belongs to the oxidation potential. This both the condition indicates the releasing of electron, and the releasing of electron means an oxidation reaction. So the value whatever we get, that is called an oxidation potential. Same way for reduction potential, before the hyphen, if you have a positive charge ion, and after the hyphen, if it gets neutral, then it acts as a reduction potential. For negative ion, before the hyphen, you have a neutral atom, and after the hyphen, you have a negative charged ion. So that also indicate the reduction potential. That symbol is very much important. Most of the time, students are not aware about the symbolic presentation. N value in the Nernst equation, where N is actually what? The number of electrons involved into the redox reaction. See, sometimes it's very easy to calculate the N. We just write it down the anode and cathode value, and with the help of anode cathode equations, we get the N value easily. But sometimes the number of electrons on the anode and the number of electrons on the cathode are different. So you first make the number of electrons equal on the anode and the cathode equations. And in this way, you can say you have the perfect N value. And for that, you have to take LCM, just you have taken it into the half reaction method when you balancing the redox reaction in the 11th standard. Number 7, writing of chemical equation. See, here in this case, we have a different points. Whenever you are going to write the chemical equations for the electrolytic cell, then first you have to apply preference. First, you have to decide which ion is going to be oxidized, which ion going to be reduced. So that's called preferential selection of ions, and that is of course based on the EMF value. I mean, based on that reduction potential value. Then the second important concept is the potential. Sorry, over potential. Most of the students ignore that concept and they believe that over potential doesn't exist. Actually, it exists, and we have a one example between the hydroxide ion and the chloride ion. So learn over potential and accordingly select the ions. Formation of hydrogen on cathode. Whenever H plus ion involved into the reduction, then don't write simply the reaction H plus plus electron gives a hydrogen. Actually, here hydrogen ion generated from the water, and you will have to prepare the equations accordingly. Formation of oxygen on anode. That is again a case of the same thing. If OH minus is going to be oxidized, then first it develops from the water, and from that it will turn to the oxygen. So make sure the equations for the formation of hydrogen and oxygens are in a precise way. Don't write it just from the ions. Write it from the water molecule. Then oxidation state or the valency, it's very required. that whatever the oxidation state you have find it out, accordingly you have to write into the product. Where the oxidation takes place, that state will increase, reduction takes place, state will decrease. Then the types of electrode. Types of electrode is very much important. If you have an active electrode, then you get the product accordingly. If there is a inert electrode, you get the product accordingly. So whatever the electrodes given to you, accordingly you will have to decide the product, and accordingly you have to write the anode and cathode equations. Then the next is calculations of Q, that is an electricity. For that, make sure the I that should be in ampere and T in seconds, specifically the time. Generally, time given in minute or maybe in hours or maybe in milliseconds. So whatever the different units are there, convert into the seconds and then utilized in the formula Q is equal to I multiplied by T. Then calculation of the Q required into the Faraday. And to convert coulombs to the Faraday, you have to divide the value by 96500. Sometimes students ignore or maybe they are not aware to convert that coulombs to the Faraday. They take coulombs directly into the calculations. Don't do this. The another important terms, that is about the Z, electrochemical equivalent. With the help of electrochemical equivalent, you can get the value of the Q. So learn about electrochemical equivalent, and for that you should have to learn equivalent mass first. Now electrolytic conduction. In this portion, we have noticed that the different errors are there. Like first of all, the factors affecting the electrolytic conductions. There are detailed study of each and every factors. So please study these factors in detail. Then resistivity and conductivity. These are the two important terms because in physics you learn based on the solid electrolytic conductor. Here you have the solution based conductors. So you use a proper theory for it. The most important point, why active current, sorry, why alternating current only used and not the direct current. So AC current used only to find it out the electrolytic conductions. Same way other we have a gram equivalent. See, whenever you want to compare the electrolytic conductions, then the gram equivalent only taken. Gram equivalent, that is a given mass upon equivalent mass. You should have to take the gram equivalent of the different electrolyte in the same volume. And based on that, you can compare their conductivity. Most of the students are not aware with it since equivalent mass is not part of the NCERT, so they believe to ignore it. Please refer this point. It is very much important. Then Colruy's law to find the limiting molar conductivity for the weak electrolytes. In that, the difference between the ions we should have to study first, and accordingly we can apply them. Now, number 10, that is calculation of oxidation states. For that, you have to study the rules from the redox reaction, that how to find the oxidation number of different element in different conditions. Specifically, this concept required in the dry cell and electrolysis. In the dry cell, that manganese dioxide change from +4 to the +3. So from the oxidation state itself only, we can conclude that manganese is going to be reduced. Next, language parameters. See, most of the students feel, oh, it's a chemistry, so language doesn't have any meaning. I mean, the language doesn't have any importance, but actually it is. And look at these words, feasible. Number of times in this chapter, the question is that whether the reaction is feasible or not. Feasible means possible. So learn the language in a way that it's not being a barrier for your routine study. Battery versus cells. Most of the students are not aware which is battery, which is cells. Actually, cells is an individual working system, and when you connected them in series, it will act as a battery. Corrosion. Corrosion is actually the reaction and rust is the product of that. Most of the time students believe that rusting and corrosions both are same. No, both are different. This is the way how this is how there is a list of errors made by the students during the preparations, and so that their results are affected. So I insist to all the students who are studying right now in the 12th standard that focus on these errors, and along with this video I put this PDF file, so if you want to download you can. Thank you and see you in the next video.